If anyone knows of any types of injuries that I've missed in the testimony, that's defensive, um, you know, let me know. If you're receiving someone's trying to cut your neck or your throat, you can reach up there, and of course, you may get defensive injuries. The offender has two hands. If he has a knife in one, how is he able to control two hands of the other unless there's some type of um, um, bondage or um, something? Are they cuffed? Are they zip tied? What's going on here that will allow him control of two hands with one hand of his while he has the other one? Um, for the fact, like I said, when you're up here and someone's trying to cut you, you'll even if you're reaching to protect your neck or trying to apply pressure to your injury, or you're trying to pull that hand away from you, a lot of defensive injuries occur. And I don't see where, anything right now is indicative, and it's been testified to that they didn't see any defensive injuries. Defensive injuries are notable, and defined, and that you'll have cuts to your fingers, your hands, your thumbs, where you grab that weapon, or you try to put your hands between someone that's say trying to cut your throat or something. You put your hand up there, and you'll have a cut across your hands. Those are defensive injuries, of where you put your forearm up, or you grab the blade, and you'll have cuts across the inside of your hands. Those are defensive injuries. And there's, from my understanding, we don't have those. Just the blood being on the hands itself is not something, and it absolutely drives me crazy of why don't we have those defensive injuries? And that has always, we've heard that, well, she fought. But do we have broken fingernails? Broken fingers? Do we have slashes on the hands, on the forearms, on the elbows? Because typically you will have those, and those are defensive injuries from a knife fight that I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times through training and through some of the fights I've been to. There's certain things I do not that I'm not willing to discuss at this time, that I will discuss after the defense gets their story in there, and their ever how they think this crime occurred, who committed it, how it was committed, because there's a lot of things right now that make absolutely no sense of the blood patterns that's on the F tree, if that's Libby, and and when was she able to possibly do that transfer, or is that transfer from the offender to the tree? And so there's a lot of things that right now, while I have certain thoughts in my mind, they're just speculation. But I don't want to discuss that speculation at this time until the case is further along and the defense gets it in there, and which I'm looking forward to. That is strange. This is an issue that says, do you think they were held down by someone else? There's a lot of different ways to control hands. Law enforcement, we use handcuffs, certain holds, but even when you're doing certain holds, your hands are occupied either with cuffs or with one arm, and you're trying to grab, or whatever you're doing with your other hand. If you're holding a firearm, stun gun, flashlight, baton, whatever, that you still have one hand that you're not able to control typically. Um, Even in the pain compliance, while you can put people in certain um, types of hold that will make them do things they do not wish to do, but if you're trying to, I do not think that it would work and bypass the survival instinct, that even if you had some type of pain compliance hold on one arm or one hand, and was applying pressures, that if you were inflicting certain injuries, that other hand, I think, instinctually survival wise, would still go up there and try to intercept any type of knife coming in contact with your throat um, or with that weapon. If you had the ability, I don't think any type of pain would stop you from that survival instinct. That's just my opinion, guys. And I have a high pain tolerance, so it bothers me so much. I can't get past it. If I had to choose any type of weapon, of course, any weapon in hand is better than none. But if I was planning a homicide or going to take certain types of weapons, a box cutter wouldn't be my choice of knife to take, even if it was disposable. It's just something that I think is odd. And that's one of the reasons that I really, while it could be a knife, a box cutter, and at the end of the day, it may be, but it's just really not something that you would think that anyone that was planning and was an organized offender would say, okay, I've got my firearm, I've got my restraints, I've got my box cutter. I don't see that, but doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's very strange. But you're right, box cutter is very capable of slashing people. Been used. They're easily hid, concealable, and disposable. But it's not really a weapon of choice that you would take up against two people and not having the blade broken. But once again, we don't have those defensive wounds. And how did that occur? Just drives me crazy. Steve, it concerns you about the defensive injuries. Might it indicate them being incapacitated or restrained in some way? Yes, that's a possibility for the fact that, if we're in a knife fight and people reach for those knives, they defend themselves. And even when they're receiving injuries, they'll grab it and you'll still have cuts made to their fingers, to their arms. And, it's not been noted that I know of. If anyone knows of any types of injuries that I've missed in the testimony that's defensive, let me know. FBI affidavit for the Logan, something about that. There was no indications of injury. I just can't explain it, that we have two victims and no defensive injuries. And how do you do that to two of them? Because one of them has to be first. What is the other one doing? It makes no sense to me, guys. If we had one victim, this scenario that Kate explains is very possible. But we have two victims. How and of course, what injuries could incapacitate one or the other? I don't know. Joshua Posh, Steve, if a box cutter was used, you normally would expect a perpetrator to have some injury or leave materials behind at the scene. I would think that, yes, the blade will have broke. I would think during the struggles or something. I absolutely makes no sense. Bama says, do you think the girls were soft restrained where it didn't leave restraint bruising marks? I don't know. I don't know. There had to be, something happened. We have two victims. We got two victims and one offender. The offender has two hands. The victims have four. And how do we control four hands with no defensive wounds? I don't, like I said, strange.